I'm Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilts and Lazy Girl Designs, and welcome to the Cuppa Tea video tutorial series. These videos will be available ongoing to assist you in making your very own Cuppa Tea quilt. The book is available now, and you can ask for it at your favorite local quilt shop. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about protecting your points and my hang pin technique. So what does protect your points mean? It means exactly that. You work hard when sewing to create all these nice points, and the last thing you would want when sewing things together is to lose those points. So I'm going to show you techniques to preserve those points, and there are times when you have something from one block that is going to line up with another one, and there's a technique called hang pin that can be very helpful. So let's jump right on in, and I will show you both those techniques. The 12 main blocks for Cuppa Tea are put together in a 9 patch. Right here in front of you, as an example, I have block 11. I've gone ahead and made my 4-step lazy angle units, my companion block, and then I have 4 background squares to fill it in. 9 patches, generally speaking, pretty simple. Sew these 3, sew these 3, sew these 3, sew your rows, you're good to go. But here we have a few extra things to consider, and so I'm going to show you some tips to make sure that we don't lose our points that we've worked so hard to obtain up to this point. First thing that I'm going to show you is how we make sure that we line up this point to here and this point to here. And then I'm also going to show you, when sewing these together, how we maintain our points up here to make sure that when we eventually have our sashing go on, that we have the correct seam allowance. So let's head on over to the machine where I'll show you these tips. I'm over here at my machine, and I have brought my block over here so that I don't mix anything up. And the first thing that I want to show you is how to line up these points. We could just put these right sides together, stick it through the machine, hope for the best. What I like to do, though, is I like to give myself as much chance as possible of getting those points to line up. And what I like to do is called the hang pin. So let me show you what that looks like. The hang pin is a technique where you are going to place a pin that is going to, as it sounds, hang in here, and then 2 other pins to help ensure alignment. So our first pin is going to come in from the wrong side, right at the point. You're going to double check on the other side that it's coming through. You see right where it wants to be. Then you are going to go in from the right side at the point of the other piece. Okay. And now you are going to put these 2 together and push the pin about halfway through. And you're going to leave it hanging there, hence the name hang pin. So it's just kind of hanging there. See the pin? It's just hanging there. Now, what we want to do is put a pin in either side to hold these in place so that we can take it to the machine. And what we want to make sure that we do is, see here, you can see I'm wiggling that pin up, down, right, left. We don't want to do that. We want to keep these nice and hugged together. And we want to make sure that our pin stays in nice and straight. And you can see right away that for whatever reason, when I sewed, that my green piece is not going to be flush up at the top of this other one here. And that's okay. Things happen. If it was flush, my points might not line up. And what I care about right now is that my points line up. So I'm simply going to take 2 other pins, and I'm going to place one here. And make sure that hang pin stays exactly where I want it. And I'm going to take my other pin and put it right here. So this is what it should look like. And then I'm going to take the hang pin out so that I have the ability to go to my machine. Now I could sew the length of this seam, but what if it's off? Then I have to take all the stitching out. So what I like to do is I like to sew about 1 inch, half an inch on either side, and double check and make sure everything is good. So I am going to lift my presser foot, move my little scrap piece out of the way there. And this is a place where a stiletto can be very helpful to keep and hold all those seams down. And I'm just going to simply stitch. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that my needle lands right at that intersection of those points. Let's see how that looks. And that looks great. So you can see that by using the hang pin, these points line up really well to each other. So now that I have that in place, I can go ahead and sew the length of this seam. just going to make sure to sew right on top of the stitching that I've already done. So there we go. And I will repeat those steps to put the other piece on the side using the hang pin technique as well. The next thing that I want to show you is how to make sure that you preserve these points when sewing on your background squares to complete these rows. So if we sew this to this from this side, we can't see what's going on. We don't know what's underneath there. So I find it best to sew from this side. And then I can make sure when I am sewing my 1/4 inch that I can see that point and adjust things if needed to make sure that I don't lose it. Because when I'm on my other side, I don't have visibility. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I can make sure that this doesn't slide one way or the other, and that this stitching line comes so that when I have my 1/4 inch stitching line in this direction, it will land perfectly where I want it to on that seam. So let's see what that looks like. So there we go. So now we have preserved that point so that when we go to sew our sashing on, we will have a nice point there. So now when I go to sew this piece on, again, I don't want to sew with my background square on top. I want to flip and sew with my block on top so that I can see what's going on. Now this isn't always possible depending on the block layout and what's going on, but I always prioritize the pieced block or the most important pieced block or the one with the most points on top. There we go. So now I would go over to my iron and press these seams open. I'm just going to finger press them here at the machine so that I can show you what I would do next. We have this row and we have this row. So once I have all 3 of my rows done, imagine my top one's done, we're going to go ahead and sew our rows together. Now where these are, we're just going to match things up and pin. But here we have another point situation. So before I match up here or here, I'm going to go ahead and do another hang pin here, another just 1 inch of stitching, check, make sure my point is good. Once I know that it's good, I can go ahead, pin these locations, and sew the length of my seam at my machine. This is what a finished block 11 looks like. This is the block that I demonstrated the hang pin technique on. And as you can see, by using the things that I taught you with protecting your points and the hang pin, you end up with a beautiful block. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, you can ask those in the comments below. And if you have not yet signed up for the Cuppa Tea Sew Along, we'll be doing that this fall. You can sign up in the caption below. I look forward to seeing you sew along with us and see what kind of quilt you come up with.